Hello, Jacob.
Hey, Adam.
How's it going?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. It's a new year, which
Yeah.
we already identified with our last video.
Still the same New Year. It hasn't changed yet.
That is correct. All right, so let's talk reading for a moment. Do you set any particular goals for reading at the beginning of the year?
You know, I have in the past. I've tried to do maybe a book a week or so, like do 52 books in a year type thing. Small books, big, whatever. I've tried to do various Bible reading plans. For me right now, I don't have many goals apart from just to read. Because busyness of life, craziness of life, it's a thing that can be easily put aside. But
that's a good goal.
Yeah, to read.
To read. Yeah, and I'm very much in that. I every year it's the same goal for me in terms of a number. I'm always trying to read about 52 books, right?
Yeah.
It works out to a book a week. I never hit that goal. This past year was 46 books. Some books were longer, some were shorter, but 46 and a half, I guess, because we made it halfway through this book. But that's always my goal, and it just kind of gives me something to aim for. So, but I don't beat myself up if I don't make it, because I never make it. So we'll see. And of course, your goal recently has been just to get through seminary and all the
I've had a lot of reading.
required reading.
Yes, and no matter how much you like a book or a subject, being forced to read it will make you not want to read.
Fair enough.
So I'm taking a break from reading for not really.
Yeah.
I'm still reading, but
well, and speaking of reading,
yes,
we have been reading this book, Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortlund, and this chapter 12. Tender Friend is the title of it. I've said it a couple times, but this is my new favorite chapter.
Yeah, I thought the emphasis on chicken tenders was really good, and how they comfort you in times. That chicken tenders are your friend.
Wrong book. Not Gentle and Slowly.
Wow. All right.
But Gentle and Lowly, a tender friend. Speaking
yes,
of...
of course. Sorry, I did read that. Yes.
Yes, of Jesus. A friend of tax collectors and sinners. So I think we're somewhere in one of those two categories.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So now, it comes to mind for me and maybe for you, the hymn that we sing at church sometimes. What a friend we have in Jesus. I love that hymn. So the concept of Christ as a friend is not foreign to me, not just because of that hymn, but knowing the Gospels, how Jesus is identified in that manner as a friend of sinners, that comes up several times. Ortlund does make the point that whereas those who would call Jesus a friend of sinners was using that in a pejorative fashion, they were using it in a negative fashion, Jesus owns it as a positive, which is incredibly encouraging. When we think about it, to think about Jesus as a friend to me, a sinner, to you, a sinner, and the picture that indeed we get in the gospel. So, first off, just in terms of my thinking, this didn't change a lot in reality, and that's fine. I'm glad. But I certainly was glad to be reminded of this teaching that Jesus is a friend of sinners, myself included. And there was one part that just really jumped out to me, and then I think later on there was something that jumped out to you. On page 115, he says, the author says, "Here is the promise of the gospel and the message of the whole Bible. In Jesus Christ, we are given a friend who will always enjoy rather than refuse our presence. This is a companion whose embrace of us does not strengthen or weaken depending on how clean or unclean, how attractive or revolting, how faithful or fickle we presently are. The friendliness of his heart for us subjectively is as fixed and stable as is the declaration of his justification of us objectively." That is, we are saved. We are redeemed by the work of Christ. And so he is our friend. So that one really jumped out to me. And I think you mentioned on page 118, this paragraph, is that right?
Yes, yeah. I thought this really was good to read as we were talking about all these things about the heart of Christ and what Christ does for us. And Ortlund hits on this, and he says that the heart of Christ not only heals our feelings of rejection with his embrace, not only corrects our sense of his harshness with a view of his gentleness, not only changes our assumptions of his aloofness into an awareness of his sympathy with us, but it also heals our aloneness with his sheer companionship. Yeah, and that just hit me really well. I mean, that's something I've struggled with before, continue to struggle with at times, that feeling of being alone. And I've got you, you're a friend, I've got my wife, I have lots of friends,
Right.
but still, my sin, my sinful self,
Right.
the enemy, I hear the whispers, they're not really friends. Your wife just puts up with
Right.
you, those whispers can come in, and I think we can all feel alone, even when we're surrounded by people who love us.
Yeah.
Those moments come.
Absolutely, and I would say that on that note that there are at least 3 things that cause us to feel that aloneness. It can be our sin,
Mm-hmm.
right? That can, because there's this separation from others, or even a separation from God because of our sin.
Mm-hmm.
Our own suffering
Yeah.
can cause us to feel like we're very much alone, even if theoretically we know others suffer in similar or the same fashions. And then Satan,
Yeah.
right? So 3 S's for you in good Presbyterian alliteration. But those are real things. So, you mentioned that kind of those things, right? And so really good reminder here.
Right, and it helps in the suffering, in your sin, or when Satan's whispering in your ears, it helps to remember that, even if it's not, but even if what you're hearing is true, what you're feeling is true, even if your wife is just putting up with you, or all your friends, but whatever it may be that's making you feel alone, the truth is Christ is still your friend. And coming back to that rock and realizing that, you're not alone with Christ, for me has been very helpful to then come back, recenter on that rock, and then push out against those lies.
Yeah.
Instead of falling into this pit and spiral of despair. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yes.
So that's been something that's been very helpful for me.
And I like the word he uses here, Ortlund, drawing on the writings of Jonathan Edwards, pulls on the idea of a companion,
Yeah.
which is, we would use that synonymously, but it gives a little bit different idea, this idea of journeying with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's not just that Jesus shows up at different points, right?
Right.
But that he's journeying with us, and we have him as a companion on this pilgrimage that we're on, so that we aren't alone.
Yeah.
When we feel these ways. So this was deeply encouraging and a great reminder, and why I love this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reminded of something that Charles Drew writes in a book that I'm forgetting the title of right now, but he talks about how with most people we can either be safe or known, but we can't be both. That if people really knew who we were, they wouldn't like us, they wouldn't put up with us. If they really knew. Or we keep those things away so that we can be safe. But he makes the point that with Jesus, we can be fully known and safe at the same time, which is a similar way, similar to what Ortlund is saying here with the friendship of Jesus. Yeah. That he's not, as he said earlier, repulsed by our uncleanness. And I liked at the end, he made this statement that Jesus is not the idea of friendship abstractly. He is an actual friend. And I think that could be, for some, could be a good corrective. That we could think of Jesus in an abstract manner. We could sing the song, "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." And we could, work through the words, but not really have an experience of it because maybe we think we're not worthy of that, or whatever it is that might get in our way. So, as I thought about this, of course, encouraged, reminded. Also, this provides a bit of a model for the kind of friend.
Yeah, I think what you're saying there, with Christ we can be safe and known. it's a great model for our friendships as we seek to be friends to others.
Right.
To strive to be the kind of friend that people can open up to and be safe with. I mean, obviously, all human friendships have limits and have boundaries, and those are good and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not, a bad thing. But at the same time, we can push ourselves to be more of a friend and be more like Christ in those ways.
Yeah, in that way, and Scripture would tell us that not only is Jesus our Savior, He is an example to us, right? He's not just an example. That would be a different error. But He is an example to us, and it does give us a picture for what a true friend looks like. And we will falter and fail in that, and be failed by others, which is why it's important for us to know Jesus as His friend and to help others see Him as that friend. But it is also something that we can seek to do and be as well. So I was highly encouraged by this chapter.
Me too.
So I think this is one I'll probably return to think about in the future. And again, there's been so much good stuff here, but chapter 12, I definitely would encourage you to read it if you have the book, or get a hold of it somehow. And
you can borrow my copy.
Yes, that's right. Borrow Jacob's copy. We'll get it to you.
I've got it on Kindle.
That's right. So, if you have feedback for us, we'd love to hear your comments, your questions, your own reading goals, whatever it may be. You are always welcome to send us an email at
reading@northhillschurch.net, and you'll see it on the screen in just a second.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Reading with the Pastor.